Hello, good afternoon here, um, and thank you very much for attending this webinar. The plan is that to record this webinar. If you want your question do not be recorded, please let us know, so we disconnect connection. So I'm going to give you a bit of background on HydraFLASH. HydraFLASH started development in 1988, something like that. Hydrate Group was started 1987. So I joined Hydrafact University in 1991. I got a very bad cold, but much better than yesterday. Um, so I joined the group in 1991, and before me, the PhD student did a lot of work, and it was a DOS operating system, and I'd continue the DOS operating system, and my mark was the program was modeling Ceylan solution and some Chiara parameter modeling. Then I this is all within the university framework. And then in 1991, something like that, we have the first commercial version of HydraFLASH. At the time, we call it HW Hydrate, Elliott Watt Hydrate program. And it was within university until 2006 that we formed Hydrafact. Hydrafact, our commercial spin-out company with ambition to commercialize some innovation from university to the industry. And the area that we wanted to commercialize was our ability to provide consultancy, both experimental or modeling, selling software, developing software, training program, commercialization of innovative solution, basically technology transfer, and building experimental equipment for other labs. So we got control of HydraFLASH. At the time, it was not HydraFLASH HW Hydrate. Then become HydraFLASH, and it is now HydraFLASH. Initially focus was on hydrate, but gradually we extend activity to PVT, wax, asphalting. and also a little bit of scale. So our activity expanded and we changed the focus from hydrate to PVD. So hydrate become a small section of total phase behavior modeling. Now, another advantage of HydraFLASH is access to lab data. We are the only software company that has lab data, both in Hydrafact and university. Other software companies, they have to wait for experimental data to be published to use it. That's another advantage. The other one are access to PhD students. They need for their thesis, they need experimental data, whether the experimental thesis is PVT, hydrate, CO2, they need that data. We keep a copy of this. And now we have around 17,000 hydrate data and maybe 10,000 CO2 data. And we are expanding this. So these are two major advantages of HydraFlash. And we hope that HydraFlash can provide new fresh look at this data. And now I leave the presentation to my colleagues, Mr. Mahdi Kalantari, and I ask him to give more detail, more information about various aspects of HydraFlash. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us in this webinar. And thank you, Bahman, for giving us the overview of the way that the HydraFlash has passed up to now. Here we will have a quick overview on what HydraFlash have and what HydraFlash can do for us. Let me share my screen. Okay. As Bahman said, the HydraFlash was developed based on the hydrate modeling first, but it was developed later to consider different type of flow assurances like the wax and asphalting, and later it was developed to consider the PVT modeling also. So for considering the flow assurances like the wax, asphalting, and hydrate, we need to consider different type of the components like inhibitors, like salts, in addition to the routine components like the hydrocarbons. In HydraFLASH, we have the opportunity to define different type of components like the ordinary hydrocarbons uh, and the salts and inhibitors, uh, usually the routine inhibitors and the salts, to model the hydrate formation, hydrate dissociation, wax precipitation, asphaltene precipitation, and wax formation. Also, just like the other fluid modeling softwares, you can define some pseudo components or plus fractions and characterize this type of components in HydraFLASH. For hydrate modeling, after creating the fluid, you can use the different calculations for hydrate modeling, like calculation the dissociations, the melting time, the hydrate amount, also the thermodynamic hydrate inhibitor requirements, and the line of the kinetic hydrate inhibitor uh, amounts for hydrate modeling. For wax and asphaltene, before going to wax and asphaltene modeling, we need to look at the equation of states that we are supporting. In HydraFLASH, we are supporting the CPA modeling, which is considering the association part of the Helmholtz energy, Helmholtz free energy. Also, just like other PVT modeling, we are considering the SRK, Payne-Robinson, Walder Titch equation of states, and also volume translated SRK and Payne-Robinson. For wax modeling, first we can characterize the wax, the fluid based on the stabilized oil and flashed gas properties. And based on the characterized model, we can go through the wax tuning based on the PCSAFT modeling. And you can insert the different parameters, different experimental parameters here. And then you can tune the model and use the tuned model for different calculations of the wax, like wax content and wax stability. For the asphaltene part, after characterization of the fluid for the plus component and pseudo components, you need to characterize the fluid for asphaltene. This characterization can be done based on different methods, and in HydraFLASH we have two methods: the characterization of the fluid based on the live oil composition or dead oil composition, and properties, thorough analysis and properties of the stock tank oil and gas. And also we can consider the characterization based on the dead oil and based on the live oil. And after the characterization of the fluid for asphaltene characterization, you can do the calculations for the asphaltene based on the experimental data. And in this part, you can consider different type of the tuning of the model for asphaltene. The model that we are using for asphaltene tuning is the PCSAF that has been shown in the literature that it's the most powerful method and equation of states for modeling the asphaltene. In HydraFLASH, you are free to use the asphaltene onset of precipitation data, saturation data, the combination of the saturation data and asphaltene onset of precipitation data, or even the titration data to tune your model for asphaltene characterization. for asphalting modeling. And after modeling of your fluid, you can use the tuned model for asphalting, for calculation of the asphalting onset, asphalting content, and also precipitation curve. If you have any background with the reservoir simulators, you definitely know that the simulators like Eclipse, reservoir simulators like Eclipse can get the asphalting precipitation curve for their calculations and the prediction of the asphalting deposition and precipitation. Uh, Also, you can use the HydraFLASH for your fluid modeling. In the fluid modeling part, you can use the fluid characterization based on the different type of the fluid, based on single fluid or two-phase fluid, and using the properties of the stagnant gas and oil, you can characterize the fluid. Also, you can use our features in mud separation, or you can also mix the different fluids in HydraFLASH, and then you can calculate different vapor liquid equilibriums. First, you need to tune your model using the PVT lab testing tuning. Here, we have different tests that we can tune our model based on them: constant mass expansion, constant volume depletion, different DL test or differential liberation, viscosity test, saturation properties, and separator tests. You can input each of these data that you have and then tune your model based on the selected equation of states, and then you can save your model uh, and use them for different vapor liquid equilibration. Please note that just like most of the PVT softwares, you are able to define different tuning settings for different parameters in HydraFLASH also to select what tuning parameters are more important for you. After tuning your model, you can use the vapor liquid phase equilibrium to draw your phase envelope, calculate the bubble point pressure, bubble point temperature, dew point temperature and pressure, and water dropout of your fluid. And also you can calculate different vapor liquid equilibrium parameters like molar distribution, weight distribution, volume distribution, gas oil ratio, or fluid properties like density, viscosity, isothermal sound velocity, adiabatic sound velocity, and all of these parameters can be calculated in HydraFLASH. The other part that we have here is calculating the CO2 solid liquid equilibrium that is a separate feature in our software. And other thing, other feature is freezing point, and the most important thing here is the experimental database. We have a built-in experimental database in HydraFLASH, which is considered about, which is constituted of about 28,000 data points from different sources, which some of these data are in-house data of Hydrafact, and they are considering different components. Nearly, we have considered about 135 components from different temperatures and pressures up to about 1000 Kelvin and about 1100 megapascal. And you can search in this data based on your data that you need, based on the components, based on the temperature and pressure range, and all other things that you need to have their data. Finally, we have some exports for different softwares. For example, we have the export for Olga uh, simulator, which is a transient flow simulator. Also, we are working on developing the exports for Eclipse and CMG currently. And at the end, the mm, yeah, yeah, that's all. That's all. Thank you for giving me your time, and thank you for your time. I'm open to have any question.
I have a question. So with the software, it seems quite user-friendly from the tutorial that you just showed us. But if there were any issues, what would any technical issues, what would the process be to get technical support from you?
Yeah, you can just contact us on HydraFLASH and HydraFact.com or info at HydraFact.com, and we will be there for you.
Thank you for sharing this. May I ask also where this is available for testing it, like for field testing it a few days, or what are the options available?
Sure. We have a 3 days trial version for testing, and you can just contact us to get the trial version.
Okay, sounds good. And
Yeah.
I mean, needless to ask, this is already commercialized as well. Like if someone wants to proceed, it's already commercialized software, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's currently commercialized and in use in industry in different big and well-known companies, but I don't know if I can name them or not.
Basically, it is available two version.
Mm-hmm.
Is a version of academic and a version of commercial. Yeah. The there is a discount period now, which is giving huge basically discount. If you send your uh, email address, we can send you different uh, packages, different deals available. We can up to end of March, and you can use one of these options. And if you want to try it for 1 month, you can use it for 1 month, but uh, maybe you can do it as soon as possible before end of 1 month period, discount period. You send us the purchase order to benefit from discount.
Sounds good, and thank you for sharing the information. I will definitely reach out to you with details. But for my speaking on my behalf, industrial options. So yeah,
Yeah.
we have to. Is it also possible within the lines of this webinar to discuss a bit more the option about the KHI predictions that you show that there is an option of this software? I mean, commercially available software, and at least to my knowledge, till now have the option to run simulations and give us an estimated volume when it comes to thermodynamic hydrate inhibitors. But I believe Mahdi mentioned the option that there are some simulations can be done for kinetic hydrate inhibitors too. Maybe I didn't get that correct. If you want to elaborate a bit on this part.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. Um, the kinetic inhibitor, the thermodynamic inhibitor, this has been simulated by different software with different degree of sophistication and accuracy.
Mhm.
But we are the only one that can predict the behavior of kinetic hydrate inhibitor. We need some initial testing to find out the region of this kinetic inhibitor, and it's not too difficult to do. One test enough to identify the range of this KHI, and then we can apply it to different gas composition. Do you follow me? Basically, is I try to explain it. You see that what we realize that majority of uh, kinetic hydrate inhibitor, they are completely protect a structure 2 hydrate. So majority of KHI prevent hydrate formation at a structure 2 hydrate. Therefore, when we are within a structure 2 hydrate, there is no risk of hydrate formation. When we go to structure 1 hydrate, they have different degree of inhibition. We need to determine this section. That this KHI, how much protection in structure 1 it has. If we don't want to do any tests, then we need to assume that there is no protection in structure 1. But one test we determine this inhibitor can protect a structure 1 up to the ideally 5.2 degrees C. But it can be 2 degrees, it can be 1 degree, it can be 0 degree. For that, we need tests. And then once you have done this test, then you can apply this principle for different gas composition you have. That we use the same inhibitor. Because there, what is important is the hydrate stability zone with respect to structure 1, not a structure 2.
Mhm.
And I would be happy to explain more. If you are interested, we can fix another time and I bring the necessary presentation and I show you. Or you can borrow the software and you can test it yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
Much appreciated.
My pleasure. And any of these points that Mahdi mentioned, if you need further information, some example, we try to keep it simple. But this shows that the ability of HydraFLASH that basically cover everything. You can start with the PVT report, tune the PVT report, phase envelope, then go to measure asphaltene, wax, hydrate, all the picture. And then you are well equipped to tackle your challenge. Okay. Um, Thank you very much for your time. Any question, and you can contact us by email, and we will be at your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye, everyone.